All right, Rick, out of home question time, which sounds like story time. In a way, I just made that sound like story time. But here is the question. Is experiential part of out of home media?
Well, sure. Technically, yes. I mean, out of home is where brands visually intercept the public when they're out of their house. And that's generally that happens with experiential. The difference is that instead of just simply viewing it, which is more of a passive, serendipitous moment, with experiential, you're touching it, you're feeling it, you're interacting with it, you're participating. And the truth is, brands have been teaching people to participate in the public space for years.
Yeah, and the evolution of it is fascinating. So as you can see right there, 15withrick.com. Spend 15 minutes with Rick. You'll learn more about where this is going. And I don't want to paint you as a futurist, but I've often seen you present and you look into the future based upon what we see today. So if you are an independent agency, I strongly encourage you, get 15 minutes with Rick. Learn about where it's going with experiential and out of home and the rest of what's happening in out of home. Rick, thank you so much for joining us and your support of Indie Agency News.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everybody, for your support of Indie Agency News. Before we get started, let's show you this.
I'm on it.
Hi, just moved in.
Come on.
Oh, wow. Your internet seems really fast. What are you on?
I'm on.
What provider are you on?
I'm on.
On what?
I'm on.
On with...
I'm on.
Who are you on?
I'm on!
Yeah, well, you're on something, all right.
I'm on!
Stay always on with Iowa's most reliable internet. Get same or next day installation guaranteed.
Let's meet an indie agency, Fortnight Collective. So, Devin and Andy, I like that payoff. I mean, it's just, so I teach out here in Oregon, and I had a conversation with a student today. She called me she was working on something, and she said, what in your mind, what makes a great ad? And I said, simplicity. And I love that payoff. And, wordplay and fun and sort of that thing has been done for a long time, but it never gets old.
Who doesn't love Abbott and Costello? I mean, we just ripped it,
For those of you under 50, please Google that. No, I'm kidding. No, it's great work. And I'm very familiar with your Steamboat work as well, which is, it's a slightly different cut of the jib there. Little sort of Wilford Brimley vibe, the late Wilford Brimley. So, rest in peace. But yeah, it's just, it's cool work. So you're based in Boulder. And when was the agency founded? So run me through some of that right now.
Sure. Yeah. So we're based in Boulder. We also have outposts in New York and London. We've been it's going to be 7 years in November. So we were founded in 2016. And we're a full service agency. A lot of us came here to work at Crispin, Porter, and Bogusky, and fell in love with Boulder. And I'm the founder and started. I just felt like there had to be a better way of working. And so, we were most known to be, for our brand hack approach. So we have a very much like a speed and agility based process that we work with clients, and it's been a lot of fun and it's worked really well for us.
Devin, I'm sure you're not going to just sit on that. There's probably more to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a purposefully different way to execute with our partners. We have a value prop. Every brand has to have a value prop, but
Right.
Ours is about helping brands be better faster. And it's sort of an inarguable sentiment. You ask a brand leader, do you want to be in market in 6 weeks or 6 months? You pretty much, know the answer. And we're also able to tap into an amazing, robust collective of talent that over the course of our respective years have been able to work with, and they've decided to go, to the gig economy side. And when that happened, it just freed them up for opportunities for our agency. So we're able to handpick and curate the right talent for the particular client. So there's never who's on the bench, who's available. Rather, we've got people that have actually worked in this industry or this vertical or on something similar, and we can apply them to your business. So a handful of things that make us different.
Right. Andy, awesome shirt aside here.
Thank you.
So I'm presuming, that style is part of it. The Colorado style, having gone to the University of Denver, I'm very familiar, like a little touch of aloha in the mountains. I get that. You touched on what you're best known for. Dig in a little bit about the top 3 core strengths, because there are a lot of agencies that are very good at a lot of things, but there are usually 3 that rise to the top. What would you say are the top 3 strengths?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think as a brand accelerator, speed to market, and just, the original intent of the name was like, Fortnight, we do strategy and creative all in 2 weeks. But I mean, these days we even do it faster. We have something called a brand sprint, which is like, we could do that in 3 to 6 days. So definitely speed to market. Collaboration's key. I mean, so many times you work with an agency and they, you get briefed by the client and they kind of give you at arm's length away and say, we'll be back in a couple of weeks, if not months. And you just pray they nail it. So I think our process is very collaborative, even though we're moving quickly. Like, clients are there every step along the way to ensure like key alignment points. And I guess the other thing would be, we're 26 full-time employees, but we also have a collective of over 200, freelancers. But I think we're small enough that the leadership touches all aspects of the business. So, you're not going to a big agency and getting the C team. You're getting people who've worked on the biggest brands at the biggest agencies and giving you, some great quality work.
Right. Andy, I think from your perspective, all of that obviously is ringing true. What's interesting to me is, you've talked about that there are a lot of people that have worked at a lot of the agencies, and, let's put the elephant in the room, the Crispin thing. There are a lot of people from Crispin there. How has that informed, I suppose, the sensibility? Because Fortnight Collective doing its own thing, but we all, I still take pieces of stuff that I did from radio back in 1999, right?
Yeah.
So Devin, I'm curious, like the Crispin Vibe, like what are some of those things, like the positive things that are infused into what you're doing?
Well, the first thing is, putting the idea front and center. In our Crispin days, the idea was boss. And if you didn't have the right insight and the right way to motivate a market and the right creative product, well, then you're just servicing a client. And, if you don't challenge convention, it won't challenge itself. So the one thing is really putting creative front and center. And then I think it's actually the way to execute. So we all sort of had to flex a different muscle, and maybe a muscle that we didn't have prior to going to CPB, but it was at all costs and really trying to figure out any way to navigate the system. It's just figuring out ways to get things done, trying to take the impossible and making it possible. So there's this learned behavior for at least some of the people that we brought into Fortnight, where we're able to actually make things happen. And that was a lot of by way of how we just, worked it at Crispin.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Andy, now let me back up a little bit. So when we talk about Crispin, we talk about it started as an independent, then MDC, and then Stagwell. But that independence, even when they were at MDC, and I would argue, in the early days, like the vibe of MDC, it still felt like there was some independence. So, I'm looking at like Anomaly, and, there was just, that's what MDC was yeah, like there was still that kind of thing. But now that you're purely independent, why is it so important to really your team? Let's go that angle, because I think there are some obvious built-in advantages for clients, but I'm curious about your team, why it's important for you to be independent, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, it's like, we have the freedom to make bold decisions. We have the freedom to empower our people, to be fearless. We've all been part of a network where, there's things that are imposed upon us by imposed upon the agency by the network, and I think, we really, I mean, that's what I love about it. Like, we have the ability to do the right thing and tell the client, make the difficult discussion, have the difficult discussions with them, and make decisions based on what's best, for them as a brand, rather than what's best for the agency or the agency network. And, so it's no hidden agenda. We're in service of our partners. It's very collaborative. We're very much like honest brokers in this. And, it's like, it's very bespoke to the client as well. I mean, I think when you think about a big agency, your first instinct when you have a client come in is like, not who's best for the assignment, it's who has capacity. And I think for us, it's like, who's best for this assignment? How can we make this great? And, we love that about it.
That's you know what? That's such an obvious point, but one that I hadn't necessarily thought of, the capacity versus fit. So that's really interesting. We'll have to discuss that a little bit more, a little later. But we're moving on to, that's called a professional broadcast segue. I want to move on to what brands should know about working with you. What in your mind is, and again, you've touched on a lot of things here, right? You've touched on some of the mechanics, you've touched on the processes, you've touched on the systems, the philosophy. But what's a really big reason that a brand should work with you? And that's a jump ball. Whoever wants to take that one.
Devin, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I could take it. I think when Andy put this together, I think he came out of a new business world where he was saying no more than he was saying yes. And we've all done it. We hit the mute button and we're like, what are they talking about? There's no way we're going to be able to do this. It's how can we find a way to collaborate, almost collaborate to a fault versus doing something that is, very traditional. And I think partners, really like to work with us because there's not an invented here approach. We make the decisions with our client partners together. There is dual accountability. I mean, we do a lot of the heavy lifting, but our clients are a part of the process all the way through. We can also execute, pretty quickly. Oftentimes speed works in our benefit because usually the first ideas or even maybe the second ideas are the best ideas. So it's going back to that earlier point about, speed to market and speed to ideation. Andy tapped into the collective, and the collective are not just people that we think are interesting. They're people that are senior level talent. We're talking CD and ECD levels and director of strategy. So the learning curve is basically eradicated. And when we can tap the right people in the right vertical, you're just about 6 or 7 steps ahead of where you would typically be.
Right. An excellent use, especially you being from New Jersey, of the use eradicated. And I'm saying that as being from New Jersey myself. I have New Jersey roots. So that's
Nice.
I'm punking myself a little bit there. Andy, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, we have fun doing it.
Right.
We empower our people. I mean, it's funny, even just that I'm on spot. I'm thinking about it. The creative team that worked on it, it's like ECD level talent that worked at Droga 5, worked at Goodby, and that's the beauty of it. It's like, and I think one of the other things that's worth noting with us is like, I think one of the frustrations I had at big agencies is, Devin mentioned that I worked, a lot in new business. Those who needed the best and the most marketing counsel were those who couldn't afford it, and there was something a little, frustrating about that. And I think in some ways, like we used to joke, at a previous agency, from new business, like 5 for show and 5 for dough. There's some that are just, pay you very well. And at the end of the day, we're not going to dial that in. We're going to try to do a great job on that, but they pay well. But there's others that like probably don't have a big budget, but you can do some amazing work that creatives would love to work on it. And I think, this is part of this process is how do you right size engagement so you can work with some of these clients that don't have huge budgets, but are really inspiring to work with. And I think you empower your people to do their best work. So I think there's something very liberating about that.
Yeah. And I think honestly, that's part of the reason that I played that spot at the beginning, because it's an ISP in Iowa.
Yeah.
And it's a good example that great. And I used to say this at Adweek and when I was at the Drum, where it's just, great work really comes from everywhere. And, you just have to keep looking. That's all it is. And I think that that's really important too, because, for brands that maybe, and I think of brands that are on the come up, right? So it could be a startup that's in a second round or a B round, or it could be, I'm a big fan of Springwise, and there's some really interesting businesses and like really solid forward thinking businesses that are just starting out, and who knows if they get some budget or they get some funding. And I think that that's one of the misperceptions that brands might have. It's like they look at you and it's like, oh, Crispin guys, there's no way I can afford that. It's like, well, you don't know unless you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Doug, that you bring that up. I mean, we work with a lot of venture groups that are in that life cycle. Maybe they've just acquired a brand that needs reinvention. Maybe they are on a second series raise and it needs sort of a brand story behind what it is. And because we work quickly and we're efficient on how we get it done, and we have a beginning and an end date, it's affordable to work with us. It's just a very different relationship. When you get involved and we've all been there at larger agencies, time is something that makes up the bottom line. For us, we try to truncate time, put the best talent in front of the problem, create an amazing opportunity for the brand, and do it in such a manner that it's responsible, but very quick. And that's what sets a bit of a point of difference about us.
Right. I'm just hearing from our producer that the New Jersey Literary Hall of Fame just called me.
What's the
said
second
your
one?
use of eradicate and truncate. So you've made the Hall of Fame.
I need a third 8. I got to find a third 8.
No. It's fine. It's only 2 in Jersey.
Just so you know, Doug, I used to live in Middletown, New Jersey for a couple of years back in the day as well.
Yeah. No, so the ceremony's in Asbury Park. We'll let you know. It's going to be at the Stone Pony. So as we say in South Jersey, Stone Pony. Let's talk about talent. Why talent should put your agency on their list. And because you work a little bit differently, obviously you have your FTEs, but also you have your collective, ergo the name. But why should talent put you on their list?
Devin, you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, I think first off, which is that, I'll first talk about our FTEs. And I know it's a bit cliche, but we do have an entrepreneurial culture. We are not over people's shoulders. And we love the dual accountability. Like on one hand, this is your project, run it all the way through, financially manage it, make sure the creative is where it needs to be. But at the same time, financially manage it and make sure the creative needs where, it happens to be where it needs to be. And we've serviced the client accordingly. So there's a sense of ownership there that you might not get somewhere else. And for creatives, it's sort of a pretty independent way to work. Mm-hmm. We bring them in. There's a bespoke period of time that we're working together. If they come up with an idea that the client leans into, they'll make their own work. It's not about us taking it away, saying thank you very much. So they're not only working for us, they're not only getting paid for us, but they're also building their book. So it's something a little bit different. And I think the last thing is we don't meddle in people's business. We have a pretty good system. It works. Sure, there's nuance here and there to optimize it and make it better. But the fact that we've got leaders that can really lean in, be responsible for their own business, and see it all the way through is very empowering.
I'm going to give you the point for meddle because that's a Scooby-Doo reference. You meddling kids. So
I am now going to start censoring how I respond.
Let's put it this way. There's a long ago ESPN phrase, we kid because we care. So there you go. There you go. Here's my thought experiment for everybody that joins us. Whether it's a marketer or a CMO that you're working with or somebody that you want to say hi to, what marketer do you want to say hello to? Andy, I want to start with you on this.
Cool. It's funny. I was thinking about that and I could say it's like a new business thing, but you know what? I'm going to say Stacy Poole, who's the CMO of Noodles & Company, who's our AOR for, I guess, almost 2.5, 3 years now. They're a big restaurant chain out of,
yeah, we know. Yeah.
And it's funny with Stacy. I mean, she's been such a huge advocate and friend and partner with our agency. She was our Vail Resorts client before she was our Noodles client. And she actually is one of the biggest new business engines for us. She's always introducing us to her peer group. So I'd say Stacy Poole.
All right, Devin.
So someone told me a long time ago, I remember going in on the train into Manhattan and I saw a business talk about something that they were inventing. And I called everyone as a guy, and I had my guy and I was like, hey, should we invest in this? And he's like, well, what do you know about it? I'm like, not much. It was in the New York Times. He's like, you're way too late. Invest in what you love, and that'll be the best investment. So selfishly, I'll lean in. There are probably 2 brands I'd love to talk to their CMOs. I don't know who they are right now, but putting this question out there, I will dig in. One is Harley Davidson, because I love the brand and I ride and I love what it stands for. And it's sort of this upside down culture where what you'd expect it to be, and it's completely the opposite. And the second thing is I've been playing guitar for 30 years, and I only acquire Gibson guitars. So there's something raw and gritty about what that is.
Okay.
And I would love to work on that so I can maybe get some merch as well.
There you go.
Let's just be honest. It's about the merch.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I was in radio, there were things,
Mhm.
lots of things back then. But I get it. I get it. No, those are all solid choices. And yes, we love Noodles and Company out here.
Cool.
We do. Andy, Devin, thank you both for joining us. I'll see you in Colorado at some point. I get out there with fair frequency. But thank you for joining us, and best wishes for continued success.
You bet. Thanks,
Thank
Doug.
you. Thanks for having us, Doug.